Social media has been flooded with videos showing soldiers and police using excessive force on members of the public. In some of the videos, people are hit and kicked allegedly for contravening the lockdown. Some people allege they've been shot at. We're now joined on the line by Defence Minister Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula. Minister, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. First of all, have you been able to verify any of these claims from the public?
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to the listeners. Oh yes, there are videos which are fake, and it's proven that they are fake. And these are videos which were circulating even earlier, before even the deployment of the South African National Defence Force. Then you have videos which are circulating of incidents which occurred yesterday and sometime this morning. Just to say that it's not necessarily everything you see which is true. But we've been sending messages out on a regular basis through radios and through the South African National Defence Force communications to say the South African soldiers, one, should not allow themselves to be provoked. The same applies to the police. And that, number two, they should not come down in a heavy-handed manner when they deal with the citizens of our country. Now, the good thing about social media, negative as it is at times, but when there's also incidents which talk to positive development, they then raise those as well. They then get those things viral. You see, for instance, I just received a video, not a picture, not a video, a photo of soldiers who are helping an elderly person, I guess a pensioner who had gone to get her pension and bought some groceries. And they are trying to assist the old lady in whatever way. They are carrying the stuff, the one is pushing the trolley. That's the kind of message we want to convey to South Africans, that we have a positive role to play, that of one, educating people about the importance of remaining indoors because this virus kills. Number two, that yes, we are here for enforcement, but of course, in the course of that, we are conducting this education. For me, that you could see a soldier actually assisting an elderly person carrying her groceries and so on should be really a reflection of the positive attitude which our security services are demonstrating.
And Minister,
yes?
Minister, maybe some of the officers who are doing things that are wrong or being heavy-handed could learn from that, but the reality is that many South Africans are upset with soldiers who are doing, very dehumanizing things. We have footage, which our cameras have shot, of a soldier watching somebody roll in mud and also making somebody do grasshops. I mean, what's the point of all of that when they're supposed to be there telling people the rules of this regulation?
I don't want to comment about seeing young people being frog-munched or rolling in the ranges, but I will talk about excessive abuse of power in the form of physical abuse against a citizen. That for me would be very wrong. We must also address the problem of our young people who are provoking the law enforcement agencies, police, metros, and soldiers alike. Now, that cannot be right. The message we should be sending out to the communities is that all the security services who are assembled in those areas, they are there to enforce the law. They are there to protect the citizens of our country. They are there to protect the nation because there is some God-forsaken virus which has landed in our country now. And in order for people to protect themselves and to stop the spreading of the virus, we have to make sure that people remain behind doors at home and not move around, because you catch the virus, then you infect the entire family, and once you infect the family, the entire neighborhood is all equally going to be affected by that because people move around.
So tell me, where's the disconnect between what you said to soldiers and what the President said to soldiers about being gentle with South Africans?
I don't understand what disconnect are you talking about? The President said it's a clear order which he gave, which is that...
But that's not the reality on the ground.
The soldiers must nudge people into understanding the reasons why they must remain behind doors, closed doors, and that's what we are preaching here as well. Of course, you do have isolated incidents which we have not denied, but rather what we have done is to engage and say, you soldiers, you can't allow yourself to be provoked. You have to restrain yourself. You can't be heavy-handed as you are dealing with our citizens, because some of the people are doing this really purely out of ignorance. But you also do have a category of people which is extremely provocative to the security services, who look like people who want to prove a point that I can do this and no one will touch me. It's not about that. It's about you do it, you go out, you loiter around, and you catch the virus. And once you've caught the virus, then everybody around you gets it.
All right, so what's being done to speak to those people who are not using the common sense when it comes to dealing with this thing? What are you going to say to the soldiers who are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, in line with what you said?
I have been talking to the soldiers the whole morning through radio stations, community radio stations, through you, yourself. And of course, they also know that there will be consequences if people continue being heavy-handed. But also, I have directed the Chief of the South African National Defence Force that those who have acted in this way or who continue in spite of the messages we've been giving should be withdrawn.
So, Minister, there are also complaints from some people that we're only seeing the SANDF in high-risk areas, so to speak. We're not seeing them in suburbs patrolling. Obviously, this is part of your strategy, I'm guessing.
You see SANDF in areas which are?
We're seeing them in rural, in informal settlements, etc., but not in some suburbs in Johannesburg, for instance.
Thank you very much. You know, that issue was raised this morning. The whole morning people were raising the same issue, that you don't see the soldiers in the suburbs. Now, I took it upon myself to drive around to the suburbs. I've just come back from Fenton, from Melrose Arch, from, what's the place? From Killarney, Hyde Park, Bedford View, this place, okay, those suburbs, where in fact, remember, these suburbs which I'm mentioning, particularly Bedford View and Fenton, are the epicenter of the virus in Johannesburg. I went there, I went to the taxi ranks there, I went to the CBD in Johannesburg. I went to the taxi ranks there in North and others, and what I found is that there are hardly people in these areas who are moving around. And I went there at a time, for instance, in Bedford View, when people were knocking off from work those who are working in some of the supermarkets around the area and the pharmacies, and they were observing all the precautionary measures of social distancing, of moving on, each person moving on her own or his own as they were going to the taxis. At the taxi rank itself, they are also practicing everything which they have been taught to practice. They're sanitizing in the taxis. The two taxis are inspected, one in North and the other one in one of the ranks around CPT. There were only 4 people in one of the taxis, you know, and the way they were seated, you could tell that people are consciously staying away from one another. I also went into a shop, a fish shop, is it? Yes, where I saw a couple of cars and I thought it's a small place. I needed to check how many people are inside. And I found very few people, all of them without exception wearing masks and wearing gloves. So I'm just saying sometimes some of the things which are being spread around are not necessarily a reflection of what is happening on the ground. Of course, I am talking here, I stand to be corrected because I'm talking about Johannesburg and I'm talking about areas where I went to. I specifically targeted those areas which have been declared epicenters of the virus, and I found that, in fact, people are observing all of the regulations which have been and the directives which have been given to them.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Minister. We appreciate it. Defence Minister Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula.